this video, we're going to take this and turn it into this. In the last video, I 3D printed the pieces that finally got me into NScale model railroading. But now I have a new problem. The train can run. My train doesn't really have a job yet. So in this video, I'm going to take this blank curved HexTrak tile and turn it into a tiny well site. The goal is simple. Build an industry where tank cars can stop, get filled, and then haul that product somewhere else on the layout, because that is where the project starts getting really fun. We're not just building scenery anymore, we're building a railroad that has a reason to exist. This is HexTrak, my 3D printed modular NScale railroad project. Each tile is a hexagon, which means I can build the layout one small scene at a time instead of needing a huge room, giant sheet of plywood, or a fully finished plan before I even start. All I have to do is have a rough idea of what I want each tile to look like, and I start building. But for episode 2, I want to move from the train runs to the train does something. Today we are building the first real industry on the layout, a small well site. The idea is that the well site produces condensate or some kind of liquid product, and the railroad brings in tank cars to move it to a processing facility somewhere else on the layout. Is this going to be a perfectly accurate oil field operation? Probably not. Is it going to give my tiny trains a reason to pick up and drop off tanks? Absolutely. This starts with one of my blank curved HexTrak tiles. The track already curves through the tile, which gives me a little bit of open space on one side to build the scene. That is one of the things I really like about this format. A normal model railroad can feel overwhelming because every scene connects to every other scene. But with HexTrak, I can treat each tile almost like a tiny diorama. This tile does not need to solve the whole layout. I just need it to solve one job. And this job is make a well site that looks interesting, works with the track, and gives me an excuse to run tank cars. Here's the design goal. For the well site, I need a few things. First, I need the actual well or pump area. Second, I need tanks or storage so it looks like the product is being collected. Third, I need some kind of loading spot near the track. And fourth, I need enough scenery to make the tile feel like a place instead of just plastic parts glued to a hexagon. Now, as you can see, I have this 3D model and it has all the parts split together. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a square underneath all of them, so as they 3D print, it's just all in one plate. This is the part of the project I like the most because it's not just 3D printing and it's not just model railroading, it's both. Alright, let's prepare the tile. Before I start gluing scenery down, I want to make sure the tile itself still works. The train is going to pass the well site on the curve, and the loading area needs to feel close enough to the railroad to make sense, but not so close that it looks like the tank car is about to sideswipe a storage tank. So let's do some ground and base scenery. For this scene, I'm going for a industrial well site look. This is one of the reasons I like small tiles. I can experiment without feeling like I'm risking an entire layout. If this looks bad, it's just one tile. If it works, I just learned a technique I can use again. Now for the part that makes this tile different from just another curve, the well site itself. The main visual piece is the well equipment. In real life, these sites can be complicated. There can be pumps, tanks, separators, pipes, containment areas, trucks, and a bunch of safety equipment. For this version, I'm going to simplify that down into something that reads correctly at NScale. The goal is not to build a perfect model. The goal is for someone to glance at the tile and go, that's a little well site. That means the silhouette matters more than every technical detail. And you can see that here. A few tanks, some piping, a pump, a wellhead, and a loading area. The train needs a reason to stop here. So the story that I'm going with is that the well site collects condensate or some other liquid product, stores it in tanks, and then loads it into tank cars. Those tank cars can then be pulled to a future processing facility on another tile. This gives us inspiration for later scenery work. That gives me a simple operation. Empty tank cars come in, loaded tank cars go out, and eventually, once I build more scenes, this can turn into a small operating system. Maybe the well site sends tank cars to a refinery. Maybe the well site sends tank cars to a refinery. Maybe the refinery sends something else to town. Each tile can be a little scene. A combination of tiles can be a scene. But the scenes can also be connected into an entire working railroad or a working system. Let's add some details. I also want to leave enough open space on the tile so it does not feel overcrowded. That is the challenge with NScale and small modules like this. You can fit a lot in the space, but that does not necessarily mean you should. The goal is to make it feel believable for normal viewing distance. Not to cram every oil field part I can into one hexagon. And also what we're going to do is just to expand on this a little bit and just to again, give the HexTrak a little bit more, make it more interesting. We're also going to do a bonus HexTrak. The blank curved tile is now a small well site. We have the track curving through the scene, the well equipment storage tanks, a loading area, and enough ground texture and detail to make it feel like this tile belongs on a railroad. But the real payoff is not just how it looks. The real payoff is that my train finally has a job. Now I can bring tank cars into the well site, pretend they're being loaded, pull them out, and move them to another industry that I still need to build. Which means this one tile creates the next project. And that is exactly what I want from HexTrak. Instead of trying to build an entire railroad at once, each tile gives me a reason to build the next one. So here's the bigger vision. This is where the project starts to feel bigger than one scene. Eventually I want this layout to have multiple industries, a processing facility, a small town, a yard, a port. And the one I'm really excited about someday, a container port where ships unload containers with a working crane that can actually be controlled almost like an RC vehicle. Now, doesn't that sound like a fun project? This is my dream version. Trains, microcontrollers, 3D printing, DCC, scenery, automation, and tiny machines all working together. But that starts here. One blank tile, one small industry, one reason for the train to move. So that is episode 2 of HexTrak. We take a blank curved tile and turn it into a first real industry on the layout. A tiny well site where tank cars can pick up product and move it somewhere else. If you're here for the model railroad side, let me know what industry I should build next. If you're here for the 3D printing side, I'll keep showing the parts, the files, the mistakes in the process. Also let me know if you have any favorite NScale 3D prints that you have on your layout. And if you are here for the electronic side, the DCC, EX, the ESP32s, the Picos, there's going to be some signaling, lighting, gates, and eventually the container crane. This project started because I wanted a way to make model railroading smaller, cheaper, and just more approachable. Now it's turned into a tiny little railroad world that I can build one hexagon at a time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.